Today, what we're going to talk about is the online hierarchy of needs. And just to explain that title a little bit better, here's the subtitle. Let's dip into the waters of medical social media and foam. My name's Scott Weingart. I host and have created the MCrit podcast, and I am joined by
Brent Thoma, and I am the editor-in-chief of the Boring EM blog, as well as an associate editor at the Academic Life in Emergency Medicine podcast.
Now, neither Brent nor I have any conflicts of interest. We take money from no companies, no manufacturers. This is just our opinions. And we're going to talk about two things today. We're going to talk about social media and foam. Brent, why don't you tell us your vision of what social media is?
So social media is the use of audio and video and interactive online products so that you can learn from each other and share your ideas around the world.
Absolutely. And social media is virtually synonymous with interactivity. And that's really what this brings to the table, is the ability to learn and interact at the same time. And to further that idea is a concept called foam. And this was coined by our friend Mike Cadogan in Australia, and it stands for Free Open Access Meducation, or the way I like to phrase it is medical education, because I don't like creating imaginary words. But the point of it is that this is stuff online, freely available for anyone, and it is now, in my opinion, I think yours as well, Brent, some of the best medical education out there. Would you agree, my friend?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Now, Brent and I wanted to talk to you about this today so that you could get involved if you're not already. We want to give you an easy pathway to taking advantage of all these online resources and becoming part of the greater emergency medicine foam community. But we needed a structure to really talk about all these things. And when I was in college, in my philosophy courses, sociology courses, we talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the progression of a human being from their basic necessities like food, air, water, to the things that allow them to really become a more evolved person, to create, to produce, to interact. And that hierarchy of needs translated into my vision of the online hierarchy of needs, the things you need to really be someone now in the 21st century performing online. And we're going to go through each of them in turn. There's existence, safety, consumption, collaboration, and then creation. Why don't we start off with existence? So Dr. Thoma, noted medical blogger, said, for doctors, if you have no internet presence at all, then anyone can control your internet presence. And it's absolutely true. And if you don't know what your internet presence is, then you've already lost the game. If you Google yourself, and it's not narcissistic to do so, and the first 30 results that appear are all medical rating sites that you have no control over, and none of your work is there, then that is a sad thing. And when people look for you online, and they are doing so, you're missing out on an opportunity to let people know what you are and what you do. Brent, when's the last time you Googled yourself?
Probably a few months ago. I do have a pretty good idea about what's out there about me, though. Years ago, when I looked, there's actually another Brent Thoma that studies insects. So he was the number one result for a long time. And then there were a few results about me that I don't think really represented myself and what I do. But now I've got a lot of results that really come from my blogs, my websites, and the resources and links to things that I'm proud of that I've been doing. And I think it's helped a lot of people to find me and interact with me.
Absolutely. Brent, I Googled you before we did this recording right now, and what shows up there is, I think, how you want to be seen by the world. So you're doing a great job of existing online.
Thank you.
Now let's talk about, for people that have not yet started this process, how they could do it. And really the first thing is actually wanting to build an online identity. One of the ways to do that is to just put yourself out there on social media sites. You don't even have to post anything, just exist. Brent, what social media sites do you think people should be existing on?
The number one for me in a public sense is definitely Twitter. That's the easiest way to find me, to find the things that I'm saying and the discussions that I'm having. Personally, I do use Facebook, although you don't really find my profile there. That's a little bit more of a personal one for me. And then the next one is Google+. I think for the way that the Google search engine works, it just really adds value to you and your online presence if you do have a Google Plus profile.
I totally agree with all your choices. Let's talk about this Google Plus profile. This may be the most important thing you could take from this talk, is to actually just spend 5 minutes and create a Google Plus profile. We're going to have links that I'll give you at the end on how to do all of the things we're going to talk about. So you don't have to worry about scribbling this stuff down. We have extensive show notes for this lecture. But what a Google Plus profile will do is it will allow you to exist on the biggest search provider out there today. And you could create a profile that has a picture of you, has where you work, what you do, and if you want all of the best stuff that you've published, whether it be online or in traditional print, you could put links to anything else that you produce there. And now, when people search for your name, that should be the first thing that comes up, unless you've crafted other links that come up before that deliberately. Otherwise, this will be what people find when they search for your name online. Here's my Google Plus profile, and you can see this is now up there. If I did nothing else online except this, when people search for my name, they would find this, they'd know where I work, they'd know some of the things I do. So do this. This is super important. And then if you're going to take the time to do that, understand that when people look for you online, like they read a great article you published or they heard about your name from a friend, they're going to look for an image of you because they want to know what you look like, so that if they ever run into you in a conference or they come across you at a grand rounds, they'll know who you are. And the picture you want people to find is a picture that represents the person that you want people to see. So don't allow it to be some tiny little thing taken out of a conference proceedings. Go to a professional photographer or get a decent camera, give it to your friend, let them take a great picture of you, let them take 200 of them and just pick out the one you like and then put that on your Google Plus profile, put it up anywhere else you interact online so that people will know what you look like. Brent, you told me that people actually found you at conferences based on the pictures you put up online. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. And I try to have a picture that's consistent across the different websites and profiles that I have. And it makes it really easy. I mean, you start associating that picture with that person, you know what people looks like. And I find people at conferences because I've seen their pictures.
It's the way to do it. You have to exist online as both a set of words and as images. People want to see your picture. Now, you might choose to go one step further. And what you might choose to do is create a full landing site for yourself. You might even want it to have your name as the web address. For instance, I have scottweingart.com. And when people search for my name, this site comes up within the first few results. And I have my CV, I have a bio, I have other pictures of myself. I have links to the things I've done that I really like and want people to know about. I have links to all my websites. You could create one of these really easily with no web programming ability at all. If you go to a site like Squarespace, and again, we take money from none of these companies, you don't need to know how to program a single thing. If you could use Microsoft Word, you could create a website. It'll be a minimal cost per year to host it, less than $100 easily. And now you could put everything you do, whether it be in traditional publishing or the new media, and have it up in one place. Here's mine. Here's the site of Dr. Heitz, the editor for this section of Academic Emergency Medicine. He has a great landing site up there, and when you search for his name, you're going to find it. You could set something like this up very, very easily. So step one is to exist online. The next thing on the progression of the online hierarchy needs is safety. Once you exist online, you need to be safe and protect yourself, protect your image, protect your job. And, you know, the quote that was said to me at a conference once that I think expressed this best is, if you're an idiot offline, you'll probably be an idiot online. And try to avoid being an idiot at any point during your career. Now, Brent, you had a better way of thinking about this, I think.
Yeah, I like to think about social media as an amplifier. And that's what I tell the students that I work with and the other people that I talk to about social media. If you say great things, those things are going to spread and people are going to recognize you for them. If you're saying silly things, that's also going to spread, and that's going to impact your life both online and professionally.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Everything you put online, whether it be smart or silly, is searchable and persistent. It's not going to disappear. This is what you need to be cognizant of. Once it is up there, even if you regret it and take it down, someone will have a copy. There will be an archive copy somewhere. It's never going to go away. So just remember that when you're putting anything online. Maybe just as you shouldn't drive while inebriated, you shouldn't post either. It's simple stuff, but you got to stay safe. Now, just as important as protecting your image, perhaps more important is protecting your job, not pissing off your hospital. not making anyone upset with any of the things you put online. Now, there's many social media policies out there. If your hospital has one, follow it to the letter. But if you don't have one, then taking the advice of this gentleman, Dr. Faris Tamimi, the social media director for the Mayo Clinic, is perhaps the best exemplifier of this. Don't lie, don't pry, don't cheat, can't delete, don't steal, don't reveal. If you want to have an expansion of all those lines, it's posted on the show notes we're going to give you at the end. But you could just encompass everything you shouldn't do within that. The way to really get in trouble is to post patient information. HIPAA non-compliance. You got to be insanely careful about that. The easy way, don't post anything about real patients and you never have to worry. But if you had a great case you want to talk about, wait a little while. Change their gender, change their age. Don't put any patient-specific information. We've gone so far as to create a virtual hospital, Janus General, a hospital that doesn't exist except in our own minds, and that's where we set all our cases at. So there's no question about our institution thinking we're posting any real patient data or information. Be safe. The easiest way I could tell you is just imagine everything you put online is being emailed to the patient, your boss, and your mother, and you should be okay. The next step on the hierarchy, now that you exist and you know how to stay safe, is to actually start taking advantage of all these incredible resources, to start consuming the foam. And whenever I talk about this topic, I always relay a quote from my hero in medical education, Joe Lex. And he said, if you want to know how we practiced medicine 5 years ago, read a textbook. If you want to know how we practiced medicine 2 years ago, read a journal. If you want to know how we practice medicine now, go to a conference. And if you want to know how we'll practice in the future, use foam. And again, foam is free, open access medical education. So how to consume the foam? Well, Brent, I think you have the best ideas of how to do this now because you just published this great article in Annals of Emergency Medicine. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so me and my group of collaborators, they're all listed there. And we'd find that we keep getting asked about how someone should start getting into foam, how you should start consuming these resources. And we just figured, we needed to put something together that actually outlined this from step A to step, well, basically from A to Z, because nobody really had seen to do that in one place before. And it certainly wasn't published in the literature. So we got together, we came up with 5 specific strategies of how you can start consuming foam in the most efficient way possible. So those 5 strategies are listed on the screen right now. So first, use a really simple syndication reader. Second, use a podcast application. Third, use compilations to find quality resources. Fourth, use social networks to connect with content producers and your peers. And fifth, use custom search engines to find resources when they are needed. So we're going to go through the first, second, third, and fifth steps right now. Our fourth step is going to be our next section.
So why don't you show us what this means? Use a really simple syndication reader.
Yeah, so an RSS reader is basically a program that goes around to all the websites that you want to follow and takes their content and puts it together in a really nice, simple package for you to log on to and look at it. If you don't use one of these devices, you're stuck scrambling around the internet saying, I wonder if there's a new podcast on EM Crit or if there's a new blog post on academic life and emergency medicine. And you really don't need to do that. This resource will compile it all for you. And you can see on the 2 pictures here, you can see this little orange symbol. That's the RSS feed symbol. So once you get yourself an RSS reader, you can go there and on any of these social media sites, you can find this link and click on it and add it to your page. So Feedly is the RSS reader that both I and Dr. Weingart are using right now. We think it's one of the best and the simplest ones to use, but there are a lot of them if you are interested in trying something else.
And we'll have links for how to do this, how to use Feedly, how to manipulate RSS feeds in a video form, so we'll link to that at the end. Brent, why don't you tell us about number 2, use a podcast application.
So podcasts can be fairly large files. They're not the easiest to download and put onto your handheld devices so you can listen to them in your car. But there's been a good solution created for that. And these are podcast applications that come on your phone. Generally, you can get them for every kind of device. And you just download one of them. So I personally use pocketcasts. There's also a podcast application that comes on the general iOS devices. And if you use one of these and connect to a podcast that you want to listen to, it will let you know when it's available. It will let you know when new episodes are available. It will let you know that you can download them, and it'll take all of the work out of following podcasts.
Now, number 3, you say use compilations to find quality resources. What does that mean?
Yeah, so this is a hard thing to do when you're just starting out in the world of foam and you don't know where the good stuff is. So there's a few different resources that you can use to direct you to those. The one I'd recommend, and one that I've been a part of for the last couple of years, is the Life in the Fastlane review. Life in the Fastlane is one of the biggest foam resources online, and each week or two, a group of people from all over the world gets together and says what they've been reading and what they think you need to be reading, what the best updates over the last week are. And if you look at this site, it's going to direct you to all of the other resources that you might want to follow. And after you've done this for a little while, you might not need it anymore. You might be able to find them yourselves, but it's a great place to go to start out.
Absolutely agree. If you did nothing else except read the articles linked in these kind of compilations, you'd be getting a majority of the good stuff that comes out each week.
Absolutely.
Now, number 5, because again, we skipped number 4, because that's coming up shortly. Number 5, use a custom search engine to find resources when they're needed. What's a custom search engine?
So, we go to search on Google or something, and, Google isn't optimized for a physician. You search Google and you find patient information generally, and that's not what we're looking for when we're on shift. You might remember a great podcast or a great blog post, but not remember where exactly it is. So custom search engines have been designed to specifically find this type of material. Foamsearch.net is created by an emergency physician in Canada by the name of Todd Rain. And basically, he's curated a list of websites and journals that he thinks are of value to emergency physicians. And he's got a Google search that you can use to search just those resources. So if there's a specific thing that you've seen and you want to find it again and you just can't remember where it is, it's a good place to start. iClickEM is another custom search engine that's just in its kind of beta testing developmental stages right now. But they're basically trying to build Google for emergency physicians. They're not using Google's proprietary algorithms. Instead, they are actually developing algorithms based on what emergency physicians who are using the resource find to be the best resources. So that's perhaps not quite ready for prime time, but coming down the line over the next year or two, I think this type of custom search engine is going to be where it's at.
Fantastic. Now, you don't have to just stop with those 5, because we mentioned you should get on social media networks, and they will offer the best stuff out there as well. If, for instance, you are on Twitter and you follow a set of people who are really trying to collate this stuff in emergency medicine, they'll link whenever they read a great article, and now all of a sudden that's going to be pushed to you. You don't have to go out looking for it. Now, the next step is collaboration. Not just passively taking this stuff in, but actually finding ways to interact with the people producing it, with your peers and other people online. Brent, what do you think?
I think Twitter is a great way to start collaborating and interacting with other people online. It's amazing how giving everyone online is, that the people that are producing these resources are willing to engage and to discuss and to collaborate with you to build and improve different resources. And it's amazing how many new articles will come out, and you'll hear about them first on Twitter. You'll discuss them on Twitter. You'll hear from leading experts, from subspecialists in different areas of medicine about what their opinions on them are, and really take your learning from being very passive in terms of just reading these things and actually be able to actively discuss and engage and increase what you're going to retain and how much you're going to get out of your online education.
And it just breaks down so many barriers of hierarchy and progression. A medical student could be talking to someone on Twitter who's been practicing for 40 years and it's at the top of their field.
Absolutely.
Another way is to actually comment on blogs. Each podcast out there usually has an accompanying blog site where you could go and comment about what you've heard. And obviously, if you're reading a blog post, you could comment right there. Do it. This is the way post-publication peer review happens in the foam world. So you got to comment on any blog or podcast you hear. If you hear something you think is wrong, go to the site and do it in real time. You don't have to wait for a letter to the editor to get published. Now, you don't have to exist only virtually. You could actually go to conferences as well and meet the people you're interacting with.
Absolutely. So as of a couple of years ago, there's now actually a conference where the people that are interacting online go to every year. It's called SMAC, and there are other incorporation of social media into these conferences, but this is the big one. This is where all of the people that are involved in foam seem to congregate every year. The Social Media and Critical Care Conference has been in Australia for the last 2 years, but it's coming to the United States. It's coming to North America next year, and it'll be in Chicago in June. And this is awesome because you're going to get to go there and you're going to get to meet all of the people that you've been discussing with online if you use these tools and collaborate with them.
All right, the last part of the hierarchy is actually getting to the point where you're going to start creating things for the online social media world and for foam. You're actually going to put things out there instead of just taking them in. And this quote expressed it best. Why don't you say this, Brent?
If it's not online and free, then it's not published.
Yeah, it's so true. And what does that mean? It means that just putting stuff in traditional journals, you're not going to get very much impact. Not that many people read journals, I'm sorry to say. But if you put something in a journal and put it online and it's available to everyone, your audience expands dramatically. Now, when Brent and I were brainstorming this lecture, we came up with 5 ways for people who are not savvy yet to social media and online presence to really just get their stuff online in an easy way, not producing their own website yet, but yet existing in a way that's really potent and helpful for an academic career or just because you have something you want to say. And the 5 are: put up your lectures and research online. Number 2, put up a procedure video. Number 3, tweet your research. Number 4, guest post on an existing blog or podcast. Number 5, write for web present publications. Let's go through all those. Number 1, put up your lectures and research. If you give a grand rounds, if you give a conference, you could record it. It could be on a digital recorder, it could be on your iPhone, it could be on an analog recorder if you don't really have the savvy to do it digitally. Just one of those $40 recorders you could buy in any electronics store will do it. Record it and then put it up somewhere. If you don't know how to do it, give it to the tech guy in your department. Have them put it up on YouTube or on Google+. Google+ better for audio only. YouTube if you have a video to go along with it. And now that lecture exists online. And if you had no skills whatsoever, you could send it to Joe Licks. He has a site called Free Emergency Medicine Talks that he'll take whatever recording you give him and he will put it up online. He'll do the legwork for you. Now it's there. Now, once it's there, it's no longer wasted for all the preparation time, 10, 20 hours for 1 hour of lecture preparing that you then give to 40 people at a grand rounds. Maybe you do the same thing a year later. Maybe you do an in-house residency talk for your residents. You then have to drag it out of the mothballs a year later, and it's just wasted all that work for a very small impact. When instead, if it's good and it goes up online, thousands of people will see it. And it's available. And if it's good, it's going to get talked about and people are going to hear it and it's going to inspire new things. There's no reason to waste your lectures. Put them up online. What you're creating is reusable learning objects. Instead of just having something you have to do each time, now it's there and you can point people to it and say, hey, I did a great lecture on this, go listen. And you could also generate a flipped classroom. What's a flipped classroom, Brent?
So the flipped classroom, I think, is the ultimate thing that's going to come out of these new enduring educational products that we're talking about here. Basically, it's rather than doing the lecture, rather than going and doing the lecture you usually do, you're going to find this lecture online, or you're going to find a resource online, and you're going to give it out to all of your students or all of your residents or whoever you're teaching that day. And instead of then going and lecturing them again, they're going to watch it before they get to class. And then you're going to be able to use the time in class to do something better. You're going to climb up Bloom's taxonomy and you're going to be applying and criticizing and really creating these resources that they can use down the line, and that will help reinforce their learning better than anything else that you could have done. But way better than them just passively sitting there in a lecture.
Absolutely. And it's going to be more fun for you too, because instead of giving a lecture you've given 100 times, now you just get to talk and question and simulate. It's the way to go. This is the future here. All right. Now, maybe you don't have a lecture. Maybe you have a piece of research you did or a review article or something you really like that you've put in traditional print media. Don't let it die there. Not many people read journals anymore. But if you take that article and it's available for free, it's open access, great, you could actually put the article up, or if you can't, just put the citation up, but put it on a page somewhere. It could be really anywhere. It could be on your own landing site, it could be on someone else's blog, it could be on Google+. But once it's up there, now you could add stuff to it. You could add the new research that's just come out. You could add other perspectives. You could add videos. You could add all sorts of things to really broaden out the appeal of a traditional print publication. And now people could comment on it. They could give their feelings, their perspectives, and you could react to them and interact. So there's no reason to waste a publication just leaving it in a journal when you could have the online interactivity as well. Number 2 is to put up a procedure video. This is the new way to teach how to do things. A textbook description with some photographs that were used because they were available, not because they're the best way to describe a procedure. That's not the way to do it anymore. The way to do it is to film a video. And if you could get patient permission, great, do it for real. If you can't, mock it up with a set of mannequins, but show it. And if you do a good one and you put it up online, whether it be on Google Plus or YouTube, people are gonna love it. They're gonna find it, they're gonna talk about it, and now you're existing online in a way that's really helpful to your career and helpful to all the people that are utilizing the stuff you create. Number 3, tweet great articles. Tell us about this, Brent.
Yeah, so previously, it was actually hard to interact with some of the authors of these big papers that we're seeing. Maybe they'd be coming and they'd speak at a conference, you'd interact with them there, you'd have a chance to ask a question. Well, now some of these people are actually getting online. They're doing what Scott was just saying. They're coming online, they're on Twitter, they're answering questions, they're tweeting their articles, they're tweeting facts from their articles, and they're available for you to interact with. Really, all of this stuff is just going beyond the traditional publishing your article and having a day, and it's translating the research that you're doing through interaction with others using social media.
Now, tell us about at Klein Lab.
Yeah, so at Klein Lab, people know Jeffrey Klein. He's one of the most prolific researchers in emergency medicine. Pulmonary embolism is really his area of expertise, and he's been tweeting about that now. He's actually got his at Klein Lab Twitter handle, and I think he's leading the way for other researchers who want to get online and really participate in the translation of their work.
Totally agree. Fantastic, fantastic example of using just a Twitter feed to have an online existence that's really helpful to everyone around him. All right, number 4 is you could guest post on an existing blog or podcast. Tell us about this, Brent.
So this is an opportunity. If you're interested in this whole foam world, you want to start creating things, but you're not really sure that you have the knowledge or are willing to make the commitment to build up your own website, it is an absolute great idea to try this out and to contribute by putting together a guest post. There are several websites that facilitate this now, specifically Academic Life and Emergency Medicine, which is one of the biggest blogs out there, operated by Michelle Lin. She's now taking submissions that will be peer-reviewed and then ultimately published on her website. She's got a whole submission process that they're developing, and if you want to check it out, you can go to academiclifeinem.com/submission. My own website, Boring EM, is also taking submissions now, and you can check that out on a link right off of our front page.
And now, Brent, you've convinced me. I formerly wasn't taking guest posts on the MCRIT site. I'm thinking about it now. You guys have me pondering whether that's something I should start doing, and I very well might.
Excellent. Number
5 is to write for web-present publications. This may be the easiest way for traditional academics to really get involved online because it's very similar to what you're already doing, publishing review articles. But the difference is you're now easily searchable and really can add a lot more than you can in traditional media. Things like ACEP Now, Kevin Clower is doing a fantastic job on this, allows you to do a review article that will get seen by thousands more people than a traditional print publication. Now, you might not believe that. You might not want to buy that being true, but when I put a piece in ACEP Now, the amount of feedback I get is dramatically higher than when I put an article in traditional media. And, it's a little bit more laid back. You could really talk about more tacit things. And this is a great way to get involved online. People will find this now because they're built to be searchable. Folks like Richard Levitan, airway guru, his primary outlet now for new discussions are in journals like ACEP Now that has an online presence. It has a traditional print publication as well. You know, it's not a standard journal. It's what we would call throwaway journals. But these will be, I think, a more potent way of getting a message across. Perhaps after you do a research piece in a traditional journal, putting a piece in one of these online present journals will really get a much wider distribution. All right, now the last part we're going to discuss is we were asked by the Pearl editors to mention if there's any literature out there on all the things we're talking about. And I think that the progress has really outstripped the literature in this regard, and there's not that much out there. Brent, what do you think about this?
You know, I couldn't agree more. Foam is amazing for getting stuff out there quickly, and it is evolving extremely rapidly. I've been quite involved in researching foam so far, and while there isn't a whole lot out there in the literature, I will say that we have done a lot of work, and we've actually got 4 publications that have been accepted and are currently pending online publication even. So expect to see a lot more on this soon, because I think there's a lot of other people that are in a similar boat.
Perfect. Well, let's talk about just some of the literature we found. And this is not randomized controlled trials. You're not going to find those yet, but just some of the review articles and surveys that are out there. My friend Mike Mallon, Matt Dawson, and his co-authors, they wrote an article surveying emergency medicine residents about what they are doing with their extracurricular time for medical education and learning. And I think the big thing to come out of this paper is more residents are listening to podcasts than are reading textbooks. They didn't ask about it specifically, but my guess is more residents are reading blogs than reading journal articles. This is the new way they will assimilate information. So if you don't exist in this world, you don't exist. Why don't you tell us about this next article?
So this is a great article just recently published in June of 2014 in Annals of Emergency Medicine that discussed how you can use these resources to integrate them into your residency curriculum. As we mentioned before, you don't need to repeat the same lectures every year or two, especially when some people have done great jobs online. So this article goes through a lot of the resources that there are and how they can be used in a traditional curriculum to really get the most out of them. Fantastic.
And then there was another one that you had sent to me, Brent, this 12 tips. What's this?
Yeah, this is the big article on social media for medical educators. The 12 tips series in Medical a Teacher really goes over the things you need to know when you're getting started in social media. And if you're interested in getting on board, in addition to the article that I just wrote, I think this is the one to check out.
All right, and we'll have links to all of these in those show notes we'll give you in just a minute or two. And so you don't have to scribble these down. I'm going to have links to all of them. So what did we talk about today? Well, we talked about the online hierarchy of needs. Step 1 is you need to exist. If you don't exist, then the search results people are going to find are going to be things you do not want them finding. So get out there, make your Google Plus profile. Number 2 is once you exist, be safe. You don't want to get fired. You don't want to have a bad image. So just be using common sense in all your interactions online. Then start consuming, start eating up the foam. Use social media. It's one of the most potent sources for cutting edge medical education and knowledge. If you're not using it, you're missing out and you're behind the times. Then next up on their hierarchy is to start collaborating, start interacting, start actually putting you out there so that people know who you are. And then last, when you're ready, start creating, start giving back, start putting yourself actually into the mix for creating great resources in the online world. Now, the show notes that I keep talking about that have all the links to all the things we discussed are at mcrit.org/foam. And that means you have to learn how to use a web browser if you don't know how to already. So you can get over there and check out all the great stuff we discussed. Now, you might have questions, and we want to hear from you. We want to know what you think. But we're not going to make this easy for you. We're not going to give you our emails. We're not going to give you our postal addresses. We're going to give you our Twitter handles, and therefore you have to come on to Twitter and actually find us there. I'm at mcrit. Brent, what are you?
I'm at Brent_Thoma.
And we want to hear from you with any questions or thoughts. So please, please come on Twitter if you're not already and send us a tweet. I've been Scott Weingart, along with my co-producer here,
Brent Thoma,
saying we hope you dive into the foam. Bye-bye.